Hi, Cancer Sun and Rising. Welcome to your March 2025 Astro Update. It's Rena here. Ooh, March is so chock full of stuff happening. I don't even want to belabor the point. Let's just get right into it. So, if it if it's not enough that it's eclipse season, there are going to be eclipses in Aries and eclipse in Virgo. There's also There are also two retrogrades, and they're in personal planets, which can be more impactful for us as individuals because personal planets have that type of influence. And I'm talking about Venus and Mercury, and they're both retrograding in Aries. And that's not like bizarre because they're close to the sun, but and we're not, we don't begin the month with the sun in Aries, but it's, in the vicinity. But then we have a solar eclipse in Aries, and then we have Neptune going into Aries at the end of the month. So that is very significant because just like with Pluto going into Aquarius for the first time in 200 plus years, the same thing is with Neptune. And we've had this cycle of Neptune and Pisces for, oh my goodness, 14 plus years, or around 14 years. I think it was 2011 that it went in. So around 14 or a little bit less than that. So, anyway, I mean, that is really notable. So, the other thing about this is that Aries is a fellow cardinal sign, so it's going to square you off. And it's going to be in one of the angular houses, and it's going to square you off. So on the first of the month, Venus goes retrograde at 10 degrees of Aries. So that square that I'm referring to is actually coming from your 10th house, which is the house of career. That's at the top of the chart. So it's a very significant area of your life. And Venus retrograde here could have an effect of making you really think about what you value in life. Now, remember, Cancer, you rule the opposite house, the fourth house of home and family. So, even if a Cancer person happens to be very domestic, like a June Cleaver on steroids, and if you're under 50, you might not even know what I'm talking about, or 40. But yeah, that type of energy, that you're very domestic, you could still be like somebody who has a career and has like that desire for that part of your life. And so this could be very pivotal for you. This month could really get you thinking, jumping on a new timeline when it comes to career matters. And if you have any kind of like slowdowns with money, as sometimes might happen when Venus is retrograde, by the way, it doesn't necessarily work that way. Venus is a benefic planet, so even when it's retrograde, you might get a little something, something. But even if that were true, understand that Venus is a fast moving planet, and it's not going to be retrograding very long. It's like, similar to Mercury in that regard. And speaking of Mercury, 2 days later on the 3rd, Mercury goes retrograde in Aries. And what's wild, I'm sorry, 2 days later, Mercury goes into Aries. So it's in this house of authority figures, your place in the world, your status, your success, your career. So you may be thinking about these things, talking to people, and who knows, maybe that even Venus retrograde could be like a salary, renegotiation or something like that. And Mercury could have you talking to people who are above you in terms of the power structure. And um, these are things where it's back and forth, where it's not like solid yet. You're reviewing things. You're reviewing things with your career. And it could just be, and I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself. I'm talking about when Mercury goes retrograde. But yeah, I mean, just thinking about putting your mental energy into career matters. On the 14th, we have a lunar eclipse at almost 24 degrees of Virgo, which sextiles Cancer and is in your third house. Um, Now, this is a general reading, so whether it actually forms a sextile with your degree of sun or rising will depend on your degree of sun or rising. Because this is like at 2350 something, you know. So, anyway, the third house is the house of communication. And now the internet is included as part of the third house. Social media is a form of communication. Like even people that are family members, close friends, they might communicate through Facebook rather than actually calling people. Um, and just it's the house of, and so if you know, in terms of professions, it can be like education at the lower level, elementary school, high school. It can be, you know, media like journalism and things of that nature. And so lunar eclipse, and also siblings and aunts, uncles, cousins fall into third house. Neighbors. A lunar eclipse here could, it's your mind. So it could give you this amazing insight into something that has been plaguing you, that you know, give you more clarity, and that may help you to make a decision that you need to make, for instance. If it is related to siblings, if you've had any kind of falling out with siblings, then this could be the final, what do they call that, the coup de grace. And maybe you realize that you're better off without them. That is a very difficult thing for a Cancer person to do. Most Cancer people are not going to just like cut out one of their brothers or sisters in their life. It would take a lot probably for you to do something like that. But you might come to this realization that that person has created a lot of unhappiness in your life. Maybe they're jealous of you or envious, you know, and you just realize you can't reason with them or deal with them. So it could be something like that as well. This would be a great time to do like and you might do this. You might like, actually, if it's a lunar eclipse, I could see a Cancer person like totally just deleting a lot of social media accounts that they have. They might decide that they have had enough of it. It's a time waster, or too much drama is generated by dealing with these people that have nothing better to do than to, you know, stir the pot, you know. So that might be something, and you'd be really supported by the universe then, that's for sure. On the 15th, which is the very next day, and this is kind of ironic, and Mercury retrograde. Ironic because we're talking about Mercury rules the third house in astrology. So now I'm talking about this Mercury retrograde, which is at 9 degrees of Aries, and that's in your 10th house of career. Now I want you to pay attention to that degree, because that's the same degree that the solar eclipse in Aries is going to be at in a couple of weeks after this, exactly 2 weeks after this. And even the Venus retrograde is at 10 degrees of Aries. So there's something going on with these retrogrades in Mercury and Venus that could be tied into the solar eclipse, and they will still be retrograding at the time that we have that solar eclipse. So it's not that they're going to be in some kind of alignment, but they're actually going to be in Pisces by then. They're going to go back into Pisces. So, but there's just something there. So something that you think about, or kind of like review in your mind that has to do with your career, that could be the one thing that when you decide to forge ahead, that it provides you a very good boost because of the solar eclipse. So you're going to be rethinking your career, maybe your career plans. Doesn't mean that you might change into a completely different career. Of course, that's always possible. But it could just mean that you're um, thinking of branching out in a different direction, perhaps. On the 20th, we have the astrological new year when the sun goes into Aries. So, this is typically one of the markers that is alternative to January 1st for when we have the new cycle beginning, the old cycle ending. But this year, I think that we're going to be able to see or feel that new year vibe, if you will, in April when Mercury and Venus go direct. So by mid April, we might be feeling that vibe where things are actually moving forward because, in this month, I mean, just even having eclipses can destabilize our lives and make things up in the air. And then you add to that the retrogrades, and there's kind of like review more than there is pushing forward. On the 27th, Venus goes back into Pisces. And on the 29th, Mercury goes back into Pisces. For you, because of your particular chart, and because Pisces is a fellow water sign, this is your ninth house. So Mercury and Venus back into the ninth house. What could be going on? Well, the ninth house really is about our philosophical framework. Like, what do we believe is the meaning of life? And it's going to differ from person to person, obviously. And so this is something that you may be mulling over because there have been, in the last 5 years, a lot of people who are waking up to the nature of reality, of this world and the illusions of this world. And because of outer events that have kind of forced people to, limit their actions, not travel, not work. A lot of people started investigating things, and some people just had like spiritual awakenings. And of course, that looks different from person to person and how it presented itself to them. But I've read many people because I like getting a feel for what people go through. So I get different types of opinions. And that seems to be something that is very specific to the past 5 years. And because of this, the ninth house is the God house, and it's the house of the bigger picture. And like I said, your philosophical framework. And so it may be a situation where for some Cancer people, you're just not sure if it's worth it anymore. That you don't know if being like this big career person is really for you. And it doesn't have to be a big career person, but anybody who's doing that. And you just may have, or even like the type of work that you're doing. Maybe you're questioning whether it really has value or it's very helpful for other people. So that kind of thing is going on. And in the ninth house, it's really about your ethical framework too. It's not just like the meaning of life, but kind of that, I was going to say religiosity, but that's not really a good way of putting it. Whether you think that what you're doing is good for humanity and good for yourself, that could feature into it as well. Venus can be your values. what you value, well, what you value in life. On the same day that Mercury goes back into Pisces in that ninth house, on the 29th, we have that solar eclipse at 9 degrees of Aries. So that could be very interesting if you find that you start to have doors open for you, like career wise, because if you have any misgivings about what it is that you're doing, you might be even more like, what should I do about this situation? And the truth is that it's really, I think it's always like really good to go through life engaging in, looking at the things that you're doing and why am I doing this, rather than just kind of going through with blinders on. So I think that this is going to give you a lot of clarity in the months to come. But I'm just telling you, I feel like this is a very powerful year for you career-wise, because you're having this kind of a jump start with this solar eclipse, which is a powerful new moon. But then the very next day, you have Neptune going into Aries. Well, I mean, this is such a long cycle. This is a generational planet. So it's no small thing for Neptune to go into a new sign. But on top of that, this is the first sign of the zodiac. So it's a whole new cycle from that angle. And, I've just been seeing so many things that, speak of the Piscean age versus the Aquarian age. And of course, we have Pluto in Aquarius for the next 20 years. But if we look at like leaving Pisces, Neptune and Pisces behind, yes, I think that this is like spiritualizing the warrior. And, when Neptune was in its own sign of Pisces, I feel like it was more about the person who is suffering and kind of mythologizing suffering. And that's kind of what the Christ complex is. So we're moving away from that victimhood and we're moving into that sense of sovereignty that Aries is all about. And for you, this is in your career sector. So this can really I think I might do a series of videos on the effects of Neptune entering the particular house that the person is in. But for you, just like briefly, it's affecting this career sector. So for some Cancer people, especially at the beginning when it first enters, you may feel a sense of confusion about what you're supposed to be doing, and that is perfectly normal. That is how everything gets sorted out, is that there has to be kind of that, if you want to call it a crisis, I wouldn't call it that much of a crisis, but that feeling of like, who am I? Where's my place in the world? And then with Neptune, this could be that the artist reclaims their talent and their mission that they had always promised themselves that they were going to do that, and then they got distracted with other things. Or the mystic. That's another thing that can be connected to Neptune. And being brave enough to being, kind of looked at, cross-eyed by other people, like, oh, you're a Reiki master? What is that? That sounds really weird. And being able to be okay with somebody not understanding what you're doing and still knowing that you're providing a much needed service for the planet. So anyway, Cancer, I hope that this resonated. I'm so stoked for March, and I hope you are too. If you would like a private reading, I have package deals, which combine 2 or in one case 3 readings for a special price versus buying them separately. And one of probably my most popular is my deep dive reading, which is an hour of natal chart analysis and an hour of transits for the next 12 months for a special price. And if you like the tarot too, I have one called the Whole Enchilada, which combines those two astro readings with the a full length tarot reading, also for a special price. And I have, just in terms of separate readings, I also have love readings or relationship readings. I have career, life path types of readings, reading your child's, looking at your child's chart. So you can find out more information at the link below. Thanks for listening. Bye.